All right, 7 o'clock. I'm going to open the meeting. Call the town council meeting to order. Debbie, you want to take the roll, please?
Councilmember Berger.
Present.
Councilmember Gillespie. Present. Councilmember Holdren. Present. Councilmember Marina. Present. Councilmember Knox.
Present.
Councilmember Oswald. And Mayor Foskey.
Present.
Quorum is established.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
She can, it's up. I mean, it's
I
all
pledge
on.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are we on Zoom?
Yes, sir.
Or on Zoom?
And it's you two then.
Is Memphis there?
Is she present?
No.
No.
Okay. If anybody wants to speak at the public hearing, can you please sign up on the roster back there? And somebody can do that. All right, the approval of minutes for March 28th, 2022, the regular town council meeting. Everybody had a chance to look at those? Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
discussion on them?
I changed your. Thank you.
There were a couple of grammaticals
Yeah.
that Sarah grabbed for us.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that ahead of time, saving us. Appreciate you.
Oh, it's a huge value.
Thank you, Sarah, for doing that. So. All right, approval of minutes from the April 11th, 2022 town council budget workshop.
We didn't get a vote on
Oh,
that. I got a motion.
okay, motion, I call vote on the first one. All in favor? All right, back to
Thank
the
you.
town council budget workshop. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Second. Any discussion, corrections on them? Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, next item is the public hearing for the 2023 budget. This is just a public hearing for any public input. We are not going to vote on this budget tonight. The council will not vote. We will vote. We have by law, we cannot vote until 2 weeks, 10 days after the public hearing, which we're not going to have a special meeting. So we will vote on the budget at the May meeting, fourth Monday in May. One word of comment: we don't do the appraisals on the county does. So if you are having a problem with the appraisal, it's not, we don't have anything to do with that, unfortunately. We tried, we went over and talked to the appraising, over and talked to them, and there's really no mechanism for the town to appeal the whole appraisal system en masse. So if you have a question about your appraisal, you have to go to individually complain to there's a system to do it. If you can't figure that, any questions, follow up with Matt, we can help you with that process. Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing for the 2023 budget. If somebody can bring up that list of things. John, vote number one. Thank you. Limit your comments of the 2-3 minutes. I'm not going to time anybody.
Question for the town council. Does the town council have any input into the reassessment process before the new assessments were announced? Is there any mechanism for the township or town to do that?
Not that I'm aware of. But,
Are you speaking of the county?
what you mean before the assessment takes place?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not aware of anything like that. We don't, the assessor is pretty much bound by state law, about a lot of things. The assessing is, and we don't, as an incorporated town, we don't do I guess we we could do our own assessing if we wanted to, but that's not something we.
But that would apply only to the
Yeah.
town taxes and not
Right,
to
not
the
the county
county
taxes. Yeah.
level tax.
Right, yeah, so the county would, yeah, so we don't know, but the question, no, we don't have any input into that.
I'm assuming that the county, when it does its assessment, that assessment is also used for calculating any town taxes.
Yes.
On top of that,
Yes,
so I take it or leave it then.
yes, we've got, yeah, I don't think we have any control over any assessments. If we did our own assessments, like you said, we could, I don't know how that would even work with it.
I think the mechanism that we have in place is to adjust our tax rates
Right.
to generate the revenue that the town needs to balance its budget based on the assessment done by the county.
Right. Yeah, if you look at our budget, there's a very, the proposed budget is only with a 3 or 4% tax rate, and we can actually lower that even, more, we can go down even if the public, after this public hearing. We don't have any control over the county rate. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Jeff?
Please disregard that. I'm new here, so I signed on the wrong sheet. So
Okay, all right.
perhaps at a future
Welcome.
meeting.
Thank you, all right.
Thank you.
Priscilla?
So hard. 21 Market Street. And I have read through the minutes and the proposed budget, some comments as to how Hancock might treat the upcoming tax for its residents. So I understand that we have an $800,000 emergency fund. Is that what it's called, or
I wouldn't call it an
what's
emergency.
it called?
but it's a-
800,000 surplus?
There's a reserve and.
Reserve. Okay, so that's extra money that's not accounted for yet,
It's not appropriated yet.
not appropriated yet, hasn't been spent yet, and we haven't earmarked it for anything, is that what okay, thank you. So with that in mind, I also read that the town council thought that there might be a way that you could relieve some of the burden for taxpayers for the upcoming year on the town tax. Did I understand that right?
We have, in the existing, budget, we are doing that,
Okay,
transferring some of that reserve for lower the rates.
okay, and is that at a rate of 27 cents?
28, I think.
28 is the budget.
28,
28 is the
right.
budget, yes. And if we went to 27, there would be no net increase, yeah.
That would be desirable.
Okay.
So that is my request,
Okay,
just so that I understand where you are. And
Right.
I am requesting
right.
for all of the residents in Hancock town limits that we please make that change to 27 cents.
We can lower public hearing, we can lower our tax burden. We can't raise it after a public hearing, so we can. lower it.
Excellent.
But it would cost us, what, around $14,000? It's about $14,000. For every penny of real estate tax, we get about $14,000. So if we lower it another penny, we'd have to transfer 14,000 out of that amount.
We would still have a pretty nice budget, surplus or
Reserve.
reserve, thank you, reserve. I have to think about that word. Okay, so that is my request, and thank you for considering that.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments on the budget? Close the public hearing on the budget. We have council discussion later. We're going to discuss the budget at the next meeting, and so we can take into what we heard. There's no comment on council meeting now. Okay. Okay. All right, the Eastern Shore of Virginia Hazard Mitigation Plan. Matt?
Sure. And I'm just going to read a little bit from the background of the mitigation plan so I'm reading off. In October of 2000, the United States Congress passed an amendment to the Stafford Act called the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. This act seeks to protect lives and property and to reduce disaster assistance costs by mitigation, sustained actions to reduce long-term risk. FEMA has written regulations based on this act. This is the point. Local governments are required to complete a hazard mitigation plan to continue to receive certain types of disaster assistance. In spring of 2003, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management asked the counties of the Eastern Shore of Virginia and the Accomack Northampton Planning District Commission, ANPDC, to undertake this work directed the ANPDC to apply for a pre-disaster mitigation grant to finance the planning process. The Eastern Shores plan was originally completed in 2006. In the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, the current update to the plan occurred in 2021 with the adoption occurring in 2022. So that the plan that was sent before you is obviously several hundred pages long. The work was done by ANPDC with some input from each of the communities, and that requires resolution for adoption by each town within the shore. So that's what's being put before you today. And the resolution is in your packet. I can read that if it makes it a little bit easier on you folks, but in order to do that,
Do we need a motion?
yeah, you could make the motion and I can read the resolution in, if that makes it easier, or the person who makes the motion can read the resolution.
Let me read it with the correction.
Thank you.
All right, let's make a motion that we accept it and read it.
I move that we accept the Eastern Shore Virginia Hazard Mitigation Plan from 2021 developed by the counties and the towns and the ANPDC.
I second. You want to read it, please?
Whereas the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 as amended requires that local governments develop and adopt natural hazard mitigation plans in order to receive certain federal assistance. And whereas an Eastern Shore Hazard Mitigation Plan Steering Committee comprised of members of the business community, nonprofit organizations, and local officials was convened in order to study the town's risk from and vulnerabilities to natural hazards and to make recommendations on mitigating the effects of such hazards on the town of Anacostia. And whereas the Accomack Northampton Planning District Commission updated a regional hazard mitigation plan, including the town of Anacostia. And whereas the efforts of the town of Anacostia, Eastern Shore, Virginia Hazard Mitigation Plan Steering Committee members, and the Accomack Northampton Planning District Commission have resulted in the development of a regional hazard mitigation plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the town of Anacostia, Virginia, that the sections pertaining to the town in the Eastern Shore of Virginia Hazard Mitigation Plan dated April 2022 are hereby approved and adopted for the town of Anacostia, Virginia.
Thank you. Any discussion on this one?
Just a question. I found the document, but I didn't get a chance to read it. Is there a summary that would be useful for?
Well, as you know, it's 582
Yeah.
pages long.
But as
They
far
do
as
have
the
a chapter-
town part,
Yeah, they do have a chapter for each town, and I'll put a hard copy of that information. It's a fairly simple update from the most recently adopted hazard mitigation plan for the town. There weren't any material changes other than how the town responded to the pandemic.
And this was developed by ANPDC.
Yes.
All right, call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All righty. I notice there's no public. You're not gonna- what's that? Public comment section. We'll do that now. Is there any other public comment about anything? Okay. All right, council discussion, dog park design. I think you have that in front of you. We've had this for quite a while. And we, I guess, Matt, you can tell us a little background on this one.
Yeah, the background was a few years ago, the property was donated as part of the transaction where the fire department sold off the Carnival Grounds land to a property developer. The property developer then turned and donated the 6.23 acres behind where the homes are.
No.
John.
Oh,
While he's doing that, I'd like to ask, the people out there, can you hear us? I've heard so many complaints from people saying they couldn't
People
hear us
out there, out on the internet.
here in person.
In the room.
Oh, yeah.
Just muted me, he's talking to the cat.
Oh,
I figured it was a dog or cat.
Yep.
yeah, if you can't hear us, raise your hand, or the other option is not to sit on the back bench. There's seats up here.
So after the property was donated, we had some conversations about what might be the best use, and the OBCA has sort of endorsed the idea of a dog park. I think that caught on, and ever since then, we've been able to secure donations for the design and the construction of the dog park, both from OBCA and another private person. Since then, we've looked for designs, and Ray decided that he'd be willing to dedicate some of his time and talent to help us put together this park design. Obviously, nothing can happen until council agrees with it, even though it does have some donations that would come in. But at the end of the day, we're hoping to get moving forward with this so that, our community can get the park and OBCA can continue to dedicate its funds. But I just would love to hear the council's yays or nays on the design.
So the COVID, the money is coming from COVID money, right? ARPA money, yeah.
ARPA money, there's a good portion of it that, based on the last quote I got, which was honestly before the price of materials has gone up, the price of the fencing. But I also want to note that Cheney has dedicated, or donated rather, the poured concrete for the vestibule area for the entry to the dog park, to the fenced in area. And we estimated that was about a $2,500 value based on current. And that's not part of the other donations that we were talking about. So we have roughly, I think it's $25,000 of the ARPA money set aside for this, if we need that much, with the other donations and whatnot. The price that I got for the fencing, all in back, before materials went up, was about $15,000 for the fencing.
So if we approve the design, you'd go out to bids or something?
Yeah,
like that?
exactly.
Yeah,
At that point, sort of my project management kicks in. I go out and I solicit the bids and do everything that I would normally do. But I don't want to do that until I get council's approval that this is the park that we want to see in our town.
Can I ask
Okay.
a question?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah.
What's the 208 square feet and the 104 square feet?
It's not square feet, it's 208 square, which is 1 acre, which is 208 by 208. And that would be the big dog side. And the little dog side would be 104 by 104, which is a half an acre. It's actually reasonably well researched on the appropriate size for exercise areas for that.
I want to thank Ray.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, go ahead, let's go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have more to say?
Yeah, I do. Have you coordinated this with the residents that would be impacted by it?
I've talked with the developer to let them know that this was going back there. They were all for it. So they know that it's there, they know that it's coming, and as far as the residents, there aren't any owners yet.
Yeah, they
So
could be at least, yeah. Right.
by the time they get there, this will have been in place theoretically, so they wouldn't be moving in and
That would
having
be a
it.
surprise.
They wouldn't be a surprise.
And what will be the lighting? Is that,
It's a superb question. We're working with A&N right now. I do not want to have pole lighting back there because it's going to shine in those people's homes. So what we did was we stepped off from the transformer right where it says trail kiosk on the to the right of the parking lot. That kiosk is going to have just a ground level transformer where it'll have power. So we'll be able to put ground level lighting in the parking lot, sort of what I'll call contour lighting. The park itself would not be illuminated. It would just be the parking area to help navigate, and then maybe the walkway up to the entry, but it's not going to be open. The park would be open dawn till dusk.
so we don't really have to worry about a police presence
The police,
patrolling?
well, the police will add this to their, and they already do, to be quite honest with you, they already go back in there. This would be one area that we would be talking with security about how to best monitor that.
Thank you.
Joy?
Yeah, when I brought this up at OBCA, the reaction was a dog park. They were like,
What do you,
yeah, but,
Well, that was one person.
yeah, that's
we
true.
had already
Yeah,
talked about doing.
no, originally.
Oh.
But, this is I think, an attraction for people to stop in our town and stay in our town and visit our town because, people, there's an app, Fido, bring Fido to town. And I know people who travel based on dog parks when they travel with their pet. So I think this is a really plus for our town. And this is a great use of our ARPA funds. I'm curious about the walking trail. I see it around here. Where else does it go?
Well, if we could script it perfectly, and I'm not sure we'll be able to, the school has the walking trail that goes back. And if you look at the connection point from College Avenue where that exits, it would actually connect over here. So we could talk with the homeowners about giving an easement to continue that walking trail. That's not part of this program. I've talked with the homeowner, one of the two homeowners that has that property there, and he was very positive about that, but it's not part of this. We're not looking for an easement, but what we are looking for is the creek that runs behind this dog park is really gorgeous.
Yes, it is.
It's sandy, it's well formed, it's very pretty.
much a part
So
of this.
what we were gonna do was to punch out little sections that have already been cleared and put maybe a picnic table next to the creek so that people can
Creek waiting.
enjoy that. But that's the extent of the walking trail. We don't have permanent long-term plans, but what we did was want to draw it in so that we made consideration for its proximity to the creek. And
And I think the pickleball courts are great.
Is that, the pickleball court, that's not budgeted?
no, I would call that as a long-term plan, and that it would be great if we could fit it in, because obviously it's the fastest growing sport in America, and it would be very popular with many of our residents. But at this point, no, that's not budgeted.
Well, is the school a better location for pickleball court now? With the rest of their facilities? I mean, we guys got that.
You'd have to talk to the school. I don't think that they were in favor.
They weren't, I didn't think there was any discussion about it.
I don't think there has been a formal discussion.
And what do we consider? They mean pickleball,
One
people
other
would
thing.
sometimes want to play at night, pickleball, so you would lit it, that would be a good place for that. It's just, the school would be, probably wouldn't have any problem with that.
Shade. We're all gonna be sitting out there in the sun with our dogs.
So I guess this was fairly conceptual. I did show some planting, like, on the, so you look at, there's a north arrow up here. So if you look at the opposite side, so the southern end, where you have the 100-foot buffer. So I just depicted some planting there. So, maybe over time, if the Master Naturalist or Tree Board wanted to have a planting project, that would be an opportunity to do that there.
Yeah.
You could probably have some flowering trees around the parking lot, and then there would be opportunities for shade trees, maybe above the top of the hill to the north side. I'm not sure if we want to plant trees around the dog park or not. I don't know. Close enough to, they would have litter from the trees.
And also that one of the other longer term planners, some of the, a shade pavilion inside the area so people can sit on a bench and do that. Because there's going to be water service in there for feeding, drinking and things like that. So a lot of these things can come over time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to some dogs, some are shade, some are,
Yeah.
I've been to a bunch that don't have a tree inside, and others that are shady. I guess it just depends on where.
Right. The whole perimeter of this, well, three sides of it are shaded.
Any questions?
Yes, the closing from dusk to dawn, is that by locking the gates? Or is there an outer gate to the entrance to the whole property?
I've talked with Chief about that, and his first gut response was, if you put a sign on there that says that it's closed dusk till dawn, that gives him the ability to enforce it. The gate makes it a little bit more difficult for him to get in and out of there if somebody decides they want to walk around the gate or ride a four-wheeler around the gate or something like that. So A gate wasn't his first choice, but it would obviously fit into the layout pretty easily if we ever needed one.
So there's not a fence around the whole perimeter, just the fences of
That's
the
correct.
big
Just
dog
where the
area and the
dog,
little dog.
that's
area.
exactly right. No fencing around the
You
perimeter.
can drive anywhere. I mean, these bushes aren't here. You can drive in anywhere, right?
Yeah, we're gonna work on that because we'd like to see no motorized vehicles beyond the parking lot.
And other. I guess that was it.
So that they, if you go visit the site, there's a small extension of a road that kind of leads that way.
Yeah.
So this would just be an extension of that, then lead to about 12-car parking area. You could have a handicap or accessible parking spot closest to the sidewalk. And
Isn't that required?
it would be a highway.
It would be the courteous thing to do, even if it's not.
Well, you designed it, so I guess you don't have any questions about it.
Got it.
Yeah. All right.
Did you have questions?
Most dog parks have like a gate and then a small area and then another gate.
I think that's what these are. Yeah.
yeah,
those will-
Yeah, that's I think the sidewalk would lead to the industrial area. essentially.
Yeah. And there's that double gate. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I thought.
So I guess we need, you need an approval to go to bids and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you just give me the verbal, nothing really happens until you say that it's okay to move forward with this, but then it would be part of what's going to become I'm going to say weekly ARPA project update reports. Once we get those projects prioritized, I mean, there's 23 projects that we're going to be putting through using the ARPA money. Obviously, they're not all going to be managed at the same time, but this one, because it's got other community involvement, I thought we might want to put this one in the front or nearer to the front.
So, do we need a motion to proceed with this?
I'm in favor.
Yeah, so we can stay with the budget that we can. for ARPA, right?
Oh, yeah, nothing goes beyond that.
Right, yeah, that'll be- and we'll try to not to close that. Okay. All right, any negative comments or anything? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay,
No, there's no motion. Just,
Main Street matching grant, Jenny?
Hello, I'm Jenny from Anancock Main Street.
Jenny's the program director.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't
program
think-
manager. So Main Street is applying for a downtown investment grant, and that's funded by Virginia Main Street and the Department of Housing and Community Development. The grant value is $25,000, and that amount will be invested into downtown Anancock. And we're asking, it's a 2-to-1 match, so we're asking if we are awarded the $25,000, that the town of Anancock matches the grant with $12,500. And the
Can I
Yeah.
interrupt you a moment? I think we clarified that since it's a 2-to-1 match, it would actually be $37,500.
Right, the Virginia Main Street
Yeah,
portion is 25,000, so with the town's match, it would be 37,500 total if we are awarded the grant funds. And it's all invested into downtown Anancock. So the projects in this grant will cover a mural project. I think you have the numbers in front of you,
Yes.
$20,000.
Yes.
Will be invested in the mural project, and mural projects are great for, increasing foot traffic and increasing economic vitality. $10,000 of the grant will be invested into promotional incentives to lure shoppers and diners and activity goers to Anancock. So we'll create gift cards for downtown Anancock and also other fun incentives using social media. And 5,000 of the dollars will go to creating a series of business workshops, which will help support business owners and future entrepreneurs. And also money from that $5,000 will create a series of Main Street mixers, which will be for entrepreneurs on the shore. So we'll invite people from Cape Charles or Exmoor, Parksley, and innovators and entrepreneurs will be able to mingle with each other and exchange great ideas. And hopefully that will facilitate more businesses opening in downtown Hancock and people seeing Hancock as a good place to invest in. And then lastly, $2,500 will be used to create large inspirational window banners to hang in vacant buildings. This will give the buildings hope so that somebody will possibly invest in the building and open a business. So some of the signs might say empty building full of opportunities, something like that. So we hope you consider donating the $12,500. Any questions?
Yeah, have you fleshed out the mural project yet?
We're in the process of that. We definitely fleshed it out. We have a plan, very
Cindy's
solid plan. Yes, Cindy is
Cindy's
heading,
probably better speak on that. There's other things going on. There's another grant for that, correct?
right. We were also
Nothing
awarded,
specific yet?
Yeah, we're in the process of trying to come up with specifics, but it's a bit of a process. We have a committee that's working on it involving several artists, several business people from the town, looking at the ideas that we've come up with, and we'll do a call to artists and ask them to take an Hancock's assets and give us designs that they would like to put in murals.
You're talking about more than one mural, right? And some of them could be small, some. could be big,
Yeah.
And these murals would be where?
That's another thing we're working on, is soliciting the businesses to see who would let us put them on the buildings.
There's a lot, when you identified a bunch of sites, right?
Yeah, potential sites, we've identified a lot of them. Getting the consent, of course, is tough. And some of them are very large and might be outside of what we could afford initially.
and we were awarded another $10,000 last year, which we're putting towards the mural project. So that would be a total of $30,000 because murals can be very expensive if they're done well, which we hope they are.
Question, as I'm looking at the three columns of numbers, I'm guessing that this is what you did, and I just wanted to confirm that rather than dividing stuff in thirds and putting 2/3 in the grant column and 1/3 in the town column, that you jiggled things to make it so that it was even amounts, instead of doing an exact proration on each row. Is that?
It should be a 2-to-1. So
It is on the bottom line, but within the body of it, it's really not.
yeah, it's broken down.
I think the promos is equal.
The promos is, but
Yeah.
the banners are not, the workshops are not, and
There
the
is-
murals are not.
There is a small amount, 1,250, I believe, going towards administrative. So 10% of the town's donation, which I don't think is on that, is going to cover administrative costs.
It's not on here.
Yeah, so that's probably where the prorating isn't equal in half.
I think there's still something else. I mean, it doesn't matter, but I was just trying to understand the process.
Any other questions?
So you're just asking for the 1,250 and, yeah.
Yeah.
12.5.
12.5, yeah, 12.5.
Right.
I am still working on getting wrapped around what the town has for grant matches, and if there is a pocket that we can tap for this,
Yeah.
or that we would need to go elsewhere to get that money to match.
No, if you, each month when I give you your cash and reserves report, part of the policy that you set in, a year ago or whatever, has a portion of the appropriated reserves set for special revenue fund reserves. That's sort of the grant matching or special project portion. So there's already $250,000 set aside for that. So if you did decide to do that, I would suggest that we pull it from that,
Okay.
specifically designated bucket of reserves.
Right, and they did not, we approved a grant last couple meetings ago that they did not, they
Right.
decided not to
Right.
proceed with. That was like 20.
And this is a
What?
lower amount.
Yeah.
And what line item is that in that?
It's on
Page numbers.
page 29,
Okay.
where it says, about a third of the way up, it says special revenue fund reserve, $250,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Do we have a motion? Yeah, we need a motion.
So the motion would be that should they be awarded this
Right,
grant,
that's right, it's not indefinite, yeah, that needs to be made clear. yeah.
should they be awarded this grant, that the town would contribute up to $12,500 of the special reserve fund in order to fund the match.
Yeah, that this is, they're applying for the grant, it's not a done, I think that clear people. Yeah, it's not a done deal, they might not get it.
Like the last one.
Well, they didn't apply.
Oh, they didn't
No,
apply.
they did not get it. We just, it was too much. No, they didn't.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, they couldn't, they didn't get buy-in. So we have a motion. Let me just repeat
So
what you
moved.
said. Okay, so moved. Okay.
All right, that was Sarah.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion.
Roy,
So you feel confident, Jenny, that this one will
you know,
fly?
They've got.
I think so. It is a competitive grant, but by the town offering this money, it makes our grant application much more competitive and much more likely that we'll get the $25,000.
Okay, all in favor? I'm sorry.
What's the timetable roughly?
If the projects have to be completed by May of 2023. So we'll begin as soon as we get the grant funding, when the governor makes his decision in July of this year.
The murals would also have to be completed by May?
No, but
Oh, all right. I was
money
gonna say,
should be spent, yeah.
understood. I was going to say,
Right.
that's moving right along.
Vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Jane.
Well, thank you so much.
All right, last item of council discussion is procurement policy review. I put that on, a couple council members that wanted to visit that, so, I don't,
I'll speak to it.
yeah.
In looking at the procurement policy, I thought there were some items that needed updating. Our procurement policy dates from 2019, I believe. And I think that there are some items that we could tighten up or certainly discuss, making a little bit, in my mind, a better policy. Some of those include, there's a statement on page 1 about town employees or officials accepting discounts if vendors offer them. I think that needs to be completely removed. I just don't think that's a good practice and possibly even illegal. I'm not sure, but not being a lawyer, but I just don't think that and it doesn't have the ethics that I think we would like to show to the town.
According to this, it does not.
Wait a minute. Is that the
The fourth
second paragraph?
Last sentence on page 1.
Yeah. I was just going to mention some of the things that I think we could improve, but the bottom line of my suggestion is that perhaps we have a committee appointed to carefully review this, review other towns' procurement policies, and try to make some revisions that we feel are necessary to have a better policy. I can go through a few more of my objections if you like, but if you prefer to wait to hear them in such committee meetings, that's fine too.
Sarah, I apologize. It was not the last sentence. It was
Yeah.
next to the last paragraph where it says employees and officials may receive an occasional meal, promotional items routinely distributed by vendors, and de minimis holiday gifts according to Virginia Freedom of Information Act and this. No, we may not.
It's a council, do you want to take this up in a committee or get a couple people together with Matt and go over it? Or do we, I mean, some of us probably haven't up on this.
I have not studied it.
Yeah.
would you like me to mention a few more items that?
Yeah, if you want to, we got a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, that one is.
I think we need to do a better job of publishing bids. I think we talk about it briefly in here, but I really think we need to publish more of the bid opportunities. I'd love to see them on the website so that potential bidders had a good chance to see what the town's spending and to participate in those sales. I would like to see us give more opportunity to the businesses in the community to bid on whatever projects we're doing. Another thing that doesn't strike me as a good practice is the bid opening process. Now, I understand from Fletcher that sometimes the sealed bids are opened in council meetings, but the policy sure doesn't say that. So if that's what we want, then the policy needs to actually say it. So I think that needs to be improved. Let me see if I marked anything else quickly that I can go through. There may be other things that certainly the limits of the purchases we might want to discuss, and looking at some other towns, some were higher, some were lower. And we need to kind of make sure that we're at the right size for us. So those were just some of the topics I thought we should look at.
I had a question about, in 4C, it says authorized town employees. Do we have any authorized town employees that purchase stuff then? Or are you the sole person that?
Used to be when Brian ran water and sewer, he was able to purchase repair parts and things like that. But at this point, it really is just me.
What, does the chief buy stuff or even come
He
through?
does, but
Not much.
yeah.
All right, I just had a question. What do you want to,
I think we need to look at this and compare it to, we have copies of Shintig's and Cape Charles, and there's some glaring differences between what we put together and what they put together. And I think ours needs tightened up a little. And
so where did this come from? Somebody know?
I
Was
was
it here
on
when you-
council when.
You adopted it?
Here.
It was, huh?
That was, this was before Matt
Oh,
came.
yeah.
I think,
You were your Ray. I think it was just somebody found it somewhere and we all went, yeah, looks good. Like, for instance, the sentence, employees and officials may receive an occasional meal, promotional item, routinely restricted.
yeah, well, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, there's things in here that really should not be here. And
All right, well, I'm just trying to get the mechanics of how we want to do this. Do we want to, you guys want to do a little committee? Does anybody want to serve on, a couple of months, a month or two, work on it and present it to council?
I'd be happy to, since this is my idea.
Anybody else interested?
Okay.
Huh? All right, well, two, and then I'll be at, I guess.
Matt would-
And Matt.
would certainly-
Yeah, no, I'm more than happy to.
I mean, it sounds like some of
scrub
these
this
things are
up.
pretty
There's nothing.
obvious. So why don't we get,
Can I ask one clarifying question? Until council adopts this new policy, I'm following this
Yes.
policy as written, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
I'm just making
yeah,
sure.
so,
Yeah,
so you can be the chair, you call the meeting, and be the four of us, I guess, I'll be.
Do you want me to put it on next month's agenda in here? Or do you think do you just want to wait until?
I mean, I'd rather, I'm not thinking we would use town council meeting.
No.
No, we would use
I don't
a
think
separate
She'll need
meeting
to have
day.
town council vote on it, so that's why
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
saying.
You're gonna have it by
think
next council meeting, or?
I'm not sure we will. I'm not sure when we can meet.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, let's. hold
Well,
on.
Okay,
first
I just want to make sure we meet your schedule.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah.
internally about
Okay.
scheduling.
Okay, all right.
Great.
Any other comments on
Thank
that?
you, Cindy.
All right,
And Fletcher as well. And Thelma.
committee reports, HRSD.
HRSD, the transition is actually going, I think, fairly well. The only, I think you'll see that they put in the laterals that they contracted in to put over on Johnson Street for those new homes. Those are in. They've got one more to do. The only, I'm going to say, hiccup that we had was they they hadn't billed us for the wastewater treatment services that they perform, and I didn't want to wait 6 months and get one whopping massive bill. So we actually got that taken care of today, and they sent the first 2 months bills, and they were exactly what we had anticipated and using the budgeted rates. So I think everything with HRSD is I think it's moving along well. I'm pleased. They're a good company to work with. They really are.
All right, planning commission, what's name, we met, it's been a long time. We met since the last?
Well, it's the first Monday of this month.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, we had a long, quite a big discussion about, our first thing was revising the B1 district, and we tossed that around quite a bit about how to handle that. I think that we came up with some, I think the committee was interested in changing probably to allow apartments by right on the second floor and not by special use permit in the B1. A lot of discussion about what to do with Airbnbs in that district. I don't think there was I think they want to continue with the special use permit for Airbnbs in the B1 district on the second floor only. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are at some meeting. I think they would not use, if you had an Airbnb in the B1, the 200-foot zone buffer would not apply in the B1. It also would not cross from B1 to R1, so it could possibly be a B1 Airbnb next to an R1 Airbnb. We don't have that many situations where that's going to happen, but anyway. So we continue with the air, and there would not be, the other question was, if somebody had 6 apartments, a lot of discussion about, how many could you have? I don't think that wasn't really resolved one way or another. So that's ongoing. So that's where we're working. I think we're going to look at what's allowed in the B1 as well. I don't think we got too far in that, but I think a couple things that weren't. You probably need a little more enumeration about what's allowed in B1 and what's not allowed. We don't normally say what you can't do in a zoning ordinance, but what's that? Is that all we talked about B1? It's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah, I did some research based on a few towns that you guys basically hinted were similar. So I was able to get some other state towns, Virginia towns similar to ours, look at theirs, and I've added a couple of things to ours, but basically what you just said is apartments by right upstairs. Airbnb would be allowed by right, but you'd still need to have a permit to operate the business of an Airbnb. And then there's some nuances about parking that are going to
Oh, yeah.
because that was a
big
bigger
discussion about where we're going to get parking, and I think we're eventually going to have a discussion about some kind of limiting parking behind here.
Well, we came up with a solution that's going to be put out before planning commission and ran it by VDOT, and they thought it was manageable and comparable to other areas that have parking issues. So
Yeah,
planning commission will be hearing all about it. Let's see.
I think, and then we also talked about sort of emergency, we bumped up about what's going on at the wharf. And look at the zoning at the wharf change. We don't have any control over what's going on now. And if we change the zoning ordinance, Cheney would not be bound by anything we did on that. But I mean, they could sell it tomorrow, or there's still property that could be sold. So I think we're looking at, you're going to look into some changes down there, possibly. I don't know, but regulate tonnage coming in.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be tonnage or sort of number of trips in and out of the facility. That governing what goes on the street is very complicated. So a legal truck traveling on a legal VDOT right of roadway is not something that we can manage by ordinance. But what happens inside that property is something we can. So when we spoke to our attorney about that, it was basically, like you say, either limiting the number of tonnage, the amount of tonnage, but then that's subjected based on what product comes in and out. So we're really looking at how we can protect the town's residential community and quality to nearby and also our downtown district with trucks, even though we're not allowed to govern the trucks that come in and out on the VDOT road. So we're working through all of that right now, and this is a unique ordinance, so we're going to have a lot of legal eyes on this before we move forward.
And as always, the planning commission is just an advisory group. It's gonna come to us. I think, it's gonna be another month or two before. I think that was the main two discussions. I think we did have some, we had a discussion about, one of the members is concerned about, mandating sprinkler systems in downtown businesses on this, if they're renovating a building. And, I guess we kind of left that up to the planning, let the building inspector make that decision. We didn't feel like we could, that's not really, we don't have a building inspector.
That would be you.
No.
I'm absolutely not qualified to do that. That's why we outsource that to the county, and we've got some really fantastic people that do their building inspections.
They do.
And it was a little unclear about what we don't really know what's required in terms of sprinkler systems. And so it's a number of apartments or what's construction and stuff like that. So we felt like that's up to the county to enforce that. I think that's about all we talked about.
We're also branching off into looking at signage in B1
Right.
and
We didn't talk.
parking in B1. So all of those are starting to get prodded as a result of the first conversation.
So I think so anybody wants, their first, second,
First Monday.
first Monday, that's coming up. Yep, next Monday.
Yes, it is.
Next Monday, yeah. All right, public meeting, all are welcome. All right, waterfront, I don't know, that was pretty.
Yeah, it was really just an update on what, that the marina opened successfully. We still are having a little bit of an issue getting our hands on golf carts for rentals, but other than that, the facility's open, it's clean, we're getting reservations. We've got 5 or 6 boat clubs already booked in for the season. That'll probably perk up a little bit more. We've already started to see boats coming and going, which is really exciting. The price of fuel is obviously one of those things that we don't have great control over. We manage how much margin we make on per gallon of fuel sales, and that has actually shrunk since the gas price has gone up because we want to remain competitive in the marketplace. So really, that's what the meeting was. It was a good update. No news, but everything's open and running very well. And he's staffed up except for one person. That was the other thing. We've got one more part-time seasonal person.
One question, are the working watermen going?
The working watermen had a seasonal rental during their oyster season. Right now, they don't need the slips. So it was great to see them down there, and I'm hopeful that we can make that an annual occurrence.
Personnel, really?
We are moving forward with a slowly. We're getting there, and we will meet Tuesday. And
Next Tuesday.
yeah, and that's next Tuesday. And it's quite a document, it's not something you can just.
You're talking about the personnel.
Yes, the personnel, and we're getting there.
All righty, moving on here. Mayor's report, I don't too much. And we're there's in 2 weeks, the Main Street, Virginia Main Street is having their annual convention. That also happens to coincide. They're actually having the national convention in Richmond this year. Main Street is sending three people. Cindy's going, Jenny's going to go, and Janet's going to go, and I'm going to go as well. So it should be 3 or 4 days of pretty good stuff. There's a bunch of side trips. So I'm going to go to towns and see what they're doing. I'm going to go to Orange. I think they're a pretty similar type town. We were in Matthews, out of Matthews on Saturday, Jan and I, for a garden tour, and kind of looking around. I guess, it's interesting to see what other towns are doing. Matthews is smaller than us, but looks a little bit like us. Similar, a lot of people have summer homes there. See what they're doing. It's always interesting to look at other towns, get ideas. To reinvent the wheel every time. So anyway, hopefully I will not be here in the month of the May council meeting. So we'll probably report on that. Cindy will be here. She can report on what went on that.
Question, speaking of that meeting, I think I heard possibly that Memphis was not going to be here at that meeting either? Or was it that she's going to be
Yeah.
not at this one, but yes, at that one?
Yeah, she's gonna be, yeah, she'll run it.
And if neither of you are here, what happens?
One of you guys.
But we would have a meeting.
If you have a quorum, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and Mavis can vote on that, so everybody,
She can,
she can vote, she's not, she's still a council, she's just running. The person can't vote the rest of the time. All right, that's about all I have for report, Matt,
Yeah, I've got a couple of updates that I wanted to spend a little bit more time on. One is the Cheney operation. They've been very accommodating, professional, courteous, but they've been also pretty insistent that they bought that pier for a reason. It needs to increase, they need to increase the use of it. And it's a very, very long talk with VDOT. Is there anything we can do from a traffic study point of view to limit the trucks, the size of the trucks, the quantity of the trucks, anything like that? And basically, at the end of the day, that's a VDOT roadway, and that we can't limit the traffic unless it becomes problematic by their counting. The way that VDOT counts is by month. So they don't do, well, today's Tuesday, it's crazy. Cheney, because they unloaded the full barge, but then for the rest of the month, they're only going to do a truck a day. They don't look at it that way. They look over the course of the month, and they said that our use is nowhere close to justifying a change in use for the facility, new commercial entrances. It's just not there. So what we did talk with VDOT about is what can you do about the corner down there? Because I still say public safety is a concern with that number of trucks coming around that corner. So what VDOT acknowledged the fact that the standing stormwater is an issue. They acknowledge the fact that the quality of the pavement is an issue. So they are going to come back, and they cleaned out that storm drain that's sort of 3/4 of the way down the hill at King a couple of times, but they do believe that it's clogged underneath Cheney's property. So one of the things that they've asked me to ask Cheney about is, can they get a permanent easement or utility easement for a drain that goes underneath their property so that VDOT can make sure that the storm drain is flushed and clear. So I put that question to Cheney. They also suggested that, I suggested now that we're not going to get any major changes to the roadway at that corner, what can we do to put a sidewalk in around that side? Because walkers are stuffed out in the middle of the road, and when storm water is pushed up in there, it's even
Really in the
worse.
middle of the road.
So what can we do to get a sidewalk? The sidewalk question is twofold. One is Cheney would have to, and I'm going to say the words give, the property for the right of way for a sidewalk to go in front of where that red building is, which would have to push their red building back. Now, that's not a huge building, and I'm not exactly sure how they're going to feel about this with their inventory movement, the screening work they've got going on for dusting and all of that. But in order for us to put a sidewalk in there, we cannot step out into the roadway because we're already at the minimum VDOT required road width. So we would have to go onto their property. We would probably have to pay a surveyor to come out and shoot those lines and find out exactly where it was and then what we would need from them. So that conversation started this morning with what do we need to do to get a sidewalk in there? If we can get the sidewalk and we can get them to do a utility easement underground, we could probably get storm water at the bottom that could shoot underneath, drain straight into the creek. We would have curbs and sidewalks on the north side of the street, and we would retain the way that the width of it. VDOT also recognized that the quality of the pavement down there. They call it delaminating, where the surface of the road sort of peeled up, but the sub base is still in good shape. So they're going to come in and patch those sections of the road that delaminated. So they're going to clean out the storm drain. They're going to patch the roads where it got delaminated. They're also going to look at where the storm water is puddling right near that red building. to find out if there's any drainage opportunity that we have over there. So they're working on that. I'm working with Cheney about the easement and the right of way. And all of these conversations are just starting. But in my opinion, the bad news was that VDOT did not step up and say, yes, this is a problem. We can help you. But what they did say was, these are the things that you can do, and we're here to help. As far as the cost of the sidewalk is concerned, because that would be a town burden, they have what they call revenue share. There's two grants that come out. One is revenue sharing and the other one is that TAP grant. If you remember last year, I applied for the TAP grant for the bike path. But we didn't have consensus. This one might qualify for that TAP grant as well as the revenue sharing. And I'm wondering if Cheney feels strongly about the public safety in that corner, if they might be willing to revenue share with the town so that's, all of that is going on right now. Does that make sense? The Purdue deal seems to have been halted permanently. I talked to somebody at Cheney in Only, and they said, no, that's done.
So that's the possibly permanently.
Possibly permanently. I haven't got anything from anybody in writing that says that, but the people at Cheney are saying that that's done. So at this point, we want to get the BW ordinance strengthened so that if any parcels down there do sell, we're not having this conversation again. And then what can we do to support Cheney's improved use of the wharf and at the same time improve our public safety down there?
I have a question about the sidewalk.
Yes,
I thought VDOT owned the sidewalks.
depends where they are.
So this would be that, if we got a sidewalk, we would own a part, or the town would own a part, and VDOT would own a part?
The way that would work is we would put it in, we would install it, and then in all likelihood, we would hopefully transfer it to VDOT's secondary system so they would maintain it.
Just like we do our streets.
But that's a VDOT road, right?
It is a VDOT road.
Right, yeah. We would be paying our sort of
Up to King Street.
I would say right down where Mr. Bagwell's white fence ends, that sidewalk ends, I would say from there down to just past, just where their second gate is, where the trucks come and go all the time. We can get a sidewalk down in there and a storm drain right there. I think that would solve a lot of problems. It's not going to solve the truck count, but it's going to solve the public safety around that corner.
And I'm not understanding why VDOT won't pay for the sidewalk.
It's what they don't have room.
They just don't pay for
It's not
sidewalks.
their
Yeah.
priority.
Well, they don't have room.
They don't have room.
They don't have room.
They change buildings right here.
Cheney's wrong.
So what are you asking Cheney to do with that revenue? Move it?
It's just sitting on piers. It's not-
Yeah, what I'm hoping is that we
What do
can,
they use that for?
well, the building itself isn't much of a building, to be quite honest with you. It's more of a shielding,
Exactly.
because they've got their dead end, which houses the gravel inside of it. And if they just moved it that way, even if it was probably 30 inches, we could probably get that taken care of. So that's the conversation that's taking place. So there might be a cost associated with that to get the surveying done. VDOT has counseled us to say, don't incur any costs on this until the grant application period is open, because the engineering, and surveying, and the construction costs would all be part of the revenue share. When we incur a cost prior to that, it's probably not going to get reimbursed. So it's next May 15th is when that application period opens. So it's not an eternity, but yeah. So it's not an eternity, but it's a year. Yeah.
Just a question on timing. My hope would be that the correction of the delamination and whatever else they may find in the road would happen after the drainage issues have been resolved, so as not to get in the same boat again.
Agreed. They shot the stormwater drain, the stormwater elevation. They shot that already. They've got the maintenance plan for the cleaning out of the existing drain and the delamination. That's on their list right now. So hopefully they'll work, and those are smart people. I mean, I'm not worried about them being able to manage a project, but, and they understand exactly what our issue is. I think other than that, what else do I have? I don't have anything that's on fire other than that, really I think the next most important thing that we as a group need to do is prioritize the projects for the ARPA. What order do we want to do those in? It's just 23 projects running simultaneously is unreasonable.
So can you give us your priority?
Yeah, I can. I kind of have it in my head, but you know, you're the ones that appropriate funds.
If anybody has something wants to weigh in, send an email, if they want to see someone on the top of the list, bottom of the list.
Are we locked into the list?
No.
Well, at this point, the list has been submitted to Treasury as our list of how you appropriated those funds. So in
That
so
does not
much
mean
as
we're locked.
We
Could it
don't
be
want to do
amended?
something, we don't have to do a project.
I believe everything I'm seeing, because everybody right now is scrambling to get their original in. I haven't seen anybody say that it's locked out for, you know, let's say, for example, we want to increase security and reduce this. I don't think that that will be a problem at all. I
But
really
what if we
don't.
want to take something off and put something else
I
in?
think as long as it stays inside the categories that we put forward, and because we're so small, we fall in under the minimum deduction. So I don't think amending is going to be a problem. I really don't.
So I was really thinking if we underspend in some of the projects, we might have extra money left over that we could then find other uses for.
Yes, and I think that part of it is perfectly appropriate. And I think it's also going to happen, given that it already has. Yes. Okay.
I was glad to see that the water operator license issue is resolved.
Close.
Resolving.
Yes, it is very close, but not resolved yet.
And then the road stuff, street repairs are coming along.
Any other questions for town manager? Report?
Yes, Jackson Street.
Yep.
In Jackson Street. You say that last month you said it was scheduled for neighborhood notifications of the repavement project, which includes sidewalk curbs and full asphalt pavement, and is being done at no cost to the town. And now you say that it is in final engineering and permitting phases before HRSC contracts that streets to be resurfaced at no cost to the town. Where are we?
Like I said, it's in final engineering and permitting.
But last month we were notifying neighbors, so
No,
now
last
we're.
month I said we were getting ready to notify neighbors. We're in the permitting
Scheduled for
process. It's
neighbors.
just, the county has to give a land disturbance permit. And it's just part of the process that, you know,
So-
because we're not managing it, it's very difficult for me to push it along.
Who's
Right.
managing? And what's your best guesstimate?
I really do believe that this project is going to take place in May and early June. They're literally talking to the county about the land disturbing permit and that type of thing. Once they get that, then they're going to, then it's already gone through final engineering design. At this point, they've got their contractor picked out. You know, I think it's just a matter of getting it done, because that street is in horrible shape right now.
Holly
And
Street people are very pleased.
Holly Street is going to get done probably by, you know, we're conservatively saying midsummer, that'll be redone. I'm also asking them to look at Johnson Street between Justice and Hill. Very similar problem.
And cameras, you say they are,
Cameras were right in the middle of our evaluation period for,
right,
we've got the two companies, we've got 2 cameras from each company. And we're literally moving them around town, checking at different times of the day to find out what's working, what's not working.
I can see them working.
No, they're stealth, man.
I don't
So good if you can see them.
I'm just curious what they're gonna look like.
The 2 most obvious cameras are sitting, if you know the back door of the police department, there are 2 globes sitting underneath there. They're literally 1 camera from each company side by side
Oh,
underneath
okay, I was
there.
looking for something different.
There's also, there's 1 from each down in the wharf, where the current cameras were. We just pop one out.
Oh, okay, that's why I
Would you define analytics?
Analytics is the way that you can tell a security software what it should look for and what doesn't really matter. So an example,
Specifically, yeah.
an example would be, I'll give you the perfect example. We had, there's a demarcations line. So the camera can draw a line that says, if anybody walks across this line, please notify somebody. So we had a line drawn at the top of the boat ramp. And we said, okay, if somebody crosses that, test it out. So we had Craig literally walk across, and sure enough, it raised a red. So that kind of thing can happen. I was thinking specifically about behind the school. So, if somebody goes behind the school after that kind of analytics, you can also do like really fancy things with the same package. It's not like we're paying up for it. We haven't paid for anything. I mean, we agree that this is the system that works, but you can do things like, I was wearing a blue shirt that day. So you can literally put the search criteria for blue, and then any instance where there was the person wearing blue, it'll say, look at this period in time, because one of the things I'm learning is that when they go through camera footage, they just have to watch the entire the camera footage, and it takes just as many hours to watch it as it is to actually take place. So if something happened and you don't know exactly what time it is, you can say, look, the witness said that the guy was wearing a blue shirt. You can go in and do the blue, and it'll go through and give you 5 minutes 3 times a day where somebody's wearing blue. It does the same thing with vehicle colors. So all of those things are bundled with a common security system. This isn't, neither one of these systems is top of the line, neither one of them is bottom of the line. These are just standard analytics. So you can do some really, really clever things, but we're not looking at really clever things. We want to be able to help chief get evidentiary footage of an incident that happened without having to watch 6 days worth of video. That's what analytics is, in an incredibly long-winded answer.
Still, I know, still a lot. All righty, any questions for, no questions? All righty, we don't need a closed session. So, council comments? Joy? Carol?
Yes, Thursday night from 7 to 8:30 at the school is the, scheduled to be the 4th, but it's going to be the 3rd of the short conversations with Cherry Marsh Chapman and Ellen Petty, talking about long-term family businesses in town. I've been to the others and they were really interesting. So recommend that. And then on Sunday, the 1st, from 1 to 4 at the school, also rain or shine. It's called Spring Fest. There's going to be food trucks. Johnny Moe is going to be DJing. Bring a table and a chair and a blanket and whatever you want to drink, and either bring your own food or go to the food truck.
Could I add to say there'll be a bounce house for children and also disc golf.
Oh, right.
Older children or adults.
And I think they're going to have people to demo how to do the disc golf for the uninitiated.
All right. Thelma? Right?
No.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
8:13.